Hey guys, my name's Solana and welcome to my channel. If you're watching this video, that means that you are one of my first ever YouTube viewers. I'm going to start this video off by telling you a little bit about what I do. I'm a professional makeup artist of 5 years. I have a love for makeup on the beauty end of the spectrum, but I also have a love for special effects and illusions. Most of the looks that I do are a mixture of the two. In this video, I'm going to show you how I achieved this Valentine's Day inspired look step by step just in time for the month of February. If you want to see more videos like this from me in the future, then like, subscribe, and tap that bell so you can get a notification every time I post a new video. I plan on uploading a new video every week. Now without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, let's get it. I'm gonna zoom on in. Now that you can see everything, and I mean everything, I'm gonna go ahead and start. First, I'm grabbing my dark brown eyebrow pencil and then taking a spoolie and brushing my eyebrow hairs upward. I'm doing this so I can create a more precise brow shape. It doesn't really matter what eyebrow pencil you choose to use for this process. The main purpose of this step here is to fill in any sparse or empty areas. I try to avoid filling these in too dark because I'm going to be going in with another product on top of this one. Now notice how I'm trying to stay away from the inner part of my brow with the pencil? That is because we don't want those boxy looking eyebrows that we left in 2016. Ah, the good old days. We all know someone who still does their brows that way. And it can be really hard, especially if they're your friend, because you don't want to hurt their feelings by telling them, but at the same time, you want to be a good friend and tell them. What type of friend are you? Are you the blunt friend or the nice friend? Let me know in the comment section below. Next, I'm going to go ahead in with my NYX Lift and Snatch Eyebrow Pen. I am absolutely obsessed with this product. It creates such natural looking hair strokes and it doesn't dry out on you. I'm just very lightly flicking the pen in upward motions to create the illusion of hair. Then I'm taking this and dragging this through the tail of my brow. I would say this product is a great dupe for the Urban Decay Brow Blade. I really like both products, but this one's more affordable. It also lasts for a really long time. I didn't realize until now how long I've had it. I'm going to take my Rare Beauty concealer and a flat concealer brush, and I'm going to go ahead and clean up the shape. Starting at the bottom, I'm going to slowly and precisely bring the product out towards the outer tail. You're going to see me start dragging the product down onto my eyelid. That's because we're also going to use this concealer as an eyeshadow base. Now, I'm just doing the exact same thing on the other side. There's just something so satisfying about this part. Once you add this step to your routine, it'll bring your brow game to a whole new level. As a professional, I prefer to use applicators that I can throw out because to me it's more sanitary. If you look closely, the concealer on my eyes blended out just as flawlessly as it would with a beauty blender. Now I'm using the KVD Lock It Setting Powder and a fluffy brush to set the base in place. That rhymed. This keeps your concealer from creasing and it also helps your eyeshadow blend better. Now we're on to the fun part, and that's eyeshadow. I'm taking my Jawbreaker palette by Jeffree Star and dipping into the shade Bubblegum with a large fluffy brush. I'm taking it and lightly buffing it into my crease. This doesn't have to be perfect. We're just looking to get some color on the eye. This is called a transition shade. It's not a very natural looking transition shade, but it's a transition shade nonetheless. Wow, that was a mouthful. Now I'm going in with the shade Cherry Wet and a fluffy brush that's slightly smaller than the last. I'm applying this in windshield wiper-like motions and building the colors up little by little until I reach my desired effect. I always heard people talk about their eyelids getting stained by pink eyeshadow, and I never knew what they were talking about until I did this look. Guys, my eyelids were pink. I don't know if it's the brand, but I've done plenty of pink eyeshadow looks and this has never happened to me. Once I'm done blending, I'm going to take a small detail brush and dip it into the shade Licorice. I'm going in and applying this color to the crease as well. Once I finish buffing that in, I'm going to take the original fluffy eyeshadow brush that I used, and I'm going to blend all the colors together. Now I'm dipping into the shade Raspberry. This is the darkest shade that we're going to be using in the crease. I'm using the same detail brush that I used with the shade Licorice. It's time for a shimmer shade. I'm going to go in with this shimmery shade right here. It's called And What? And I'm just tapping that all over the lid with my finger. For sanitary purposes, I use other shimmer application methods on my clients, but I'll tell you guys about that in another video. Now I'm taking my Morphe by Jaclyn Hill palette and I'm dipping into the shade in Light with a very small detail brush. We're going to use this to highlight the inner corner of my eyes. I know you makeup lovers know about Jaclyn Hill's drama. She's had a lot of failed launches, and honestly I kind of felt bad for her at one point. I feel like it's mostly because every time she tried to put out a new product, something was wrong with it and so many people were unhappy. But aside from all the bad, this is actually a really good palette. I really like it. After blending the edges of my shadow one last time, I'm taking my Neutrogena makeup wipes and I'm going to clean up the edges. We want this to look nice and sharp. Bright colored and shimmery eyeshadows almost always come with fallout, so I'm going to use a makeup wipe to wipe that off too. It doesn't look like anything's there, but then you wipe it and boom. At this point, I was really feeling like my eyeshadow look needed more shimmer, so I grabbed my Morphe by Jeffree Star palette and dipped in the shade 2. I'm putting that all over my lid. I wanted to do a red winged liner, so I took my Paradise Paint palette by Meron and I used that to do a nice sharp wing. This is a water activated face paint and you're actually not supposed to get it in your eyes, so if you don't think you can do this without getting it in your eye, I would use something else like a liquid lipstick that dries matte or even an actual colored liner. Now I'm applying my NYX Worth the Hype mascara. For this, I'm using a disposable wand. Redipping your wand in the tube is not sanitary. But anyways, I found these super cute lashes at Walmart. I'll put them on off camera. Yes, those look so good. I'm going to zoom out now and we can start the face. I'm using the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer and I'm applying that just to my T-zone. This helps hide pores and mattifies the face. To prime the rest of my face, I'm using the Silk Canvas by Tatcha. As you can see, I only have the mini because she's pricey. For foundation, I'm using Il Makiage in the shade 150. I use the shade finder on their website to find my shade, and it's actually pretty spot on. I'm just using my Fenty Beauty foundation brush to buff this all in. Once your face looks nice and flawless, we're going to start with our concealer. This is a Hydrating Camo Concealer by e.l.f. I'm going to be using 2 different shades of this. With the lighter shade, I'm going to highlight all the high points on my face. This is where I really start to shapeshift, so don't tell the men. This is a very common placement for concealer. I'm putting it under my eyes, bridge of my nose, on my forehead, sides of my nose, and then also of course on my chin. So the other concealer shade that I'm using is actually a lot closer to my skin tone. I'm applying that under my eyes to neutralize a little bit, and then I'm also going to apply it on my jawline. You never want the highlight on your jaw to be too light because it causes too much of a contrast between that and your contour, and it just looks really harsh. I'm going to blend this all out with a sponge before I apply my contour. I would say this concealer is definitely full coverage, however, it's very light and it blends out so beautifully. I'm making sure to get underneath my eyes very well because we do not want this to crease. I'm just taking my sweet time, blending this all out, just making sure that I'm not missing anything and that it's not patchy. I'm just going section by section, ensuring that everything is blended evenly. For the contour, I'm going to go in with Huda Beauty's Tantour in the shade Medium. I'm a sucker for a good cream bronzer, and this one exceeded all my expectations. I'm using a medium-sized concealer brush to apply this to my cheeks, the sides of my forehead, the sides of my nose, and my jawline. I'm going to use a dense and flat foundation brush to blend this all out. You might be noticing that my nose contour looks a little different, but that's because I tried something new today. I saw someone draw their nose contour like this in a video, and I wanted to give it a try. I've always struggled with my nose shape, and I'm always looking for different ways to make it look smaller. Oh, just look at how good this is blending out on my cheeks. It literally looks airbrushed. I should also point out that I'm very lightly buffing this in and tapping. I'm not wiping or swiping or any of that because we don't want this to be streaky. We want this to be as blended and soft as possible. Now, contouring the jawline is definitely a must. It really helps you hide the double chin. I'll show you one side versus the other. See the difference? I'm just finishing blending this side, and then I'll do my forehead. I really like to take my time with this just to ensure that everything's blended out thoroughly. Once I'm finished up blending my forehead here, I'll show you how I blend out my nose contour. I like to use a smaller brush to do this because it gives me a lot more control over my blending. Everyone has different face shapes and nose shapes, so not everybody's contour placement is going to be the same. For example, I feel like my nose is a little bit wide and very rounded at the tip, so I place my contour in areas that'll make the tip and bridge of my nose more prominent. I'm just adding a very thin line of the lighter shade of concealer to the center of my nose, and then I'll blend it out with a sponge. Now it's time to set everything, and I'm going in with the Easy Bake Loose Setting Powder by Huda Beauty. Before I add the powder, I like to go back in under my eyes with a sponge just to make sure I blend out any creasing that may have occurred. Then I quickly put a thin layer of powder under my eyes to keep it from creasing while we bake the rest of the face. Now we're going to bake the face at 325 degrees for 10 minutes. I'm just kidding. We're going to bake in all the usual areas, starting with under the eyes and the sides of the nose, the forehead, and then also the chin and below the contour line. The skinnier end of this sponge is perfect for when you're setting the center of your nose. You don't want to go too crazy with the powder, but you just want enough to be able to cover the area evenly. I'm just patting this into all the areas of my face that tend to get oily. Now we're going to go in and set my jawline. I'm just taking the powder on my sponge and dragging it from my ear toward my mouth while following the natural shape of my face. The purpose of this is to define the cheekbones even more. Let's go back to the Jawbreaker palette and dip into the shade Licorice. We're going to finish up the eyes. I prefer to wait until my face makeup is applied and totally set to do this part. I really like to get the entire underneath of my eye when I'm blending in my concealer, so I don't want that to disturb the eyeshadow underneath. I don't know, I just feel like the eye look just really isn't complete until you do this step. I'm using a small fluffy eyeshadow brush to apply this underneath my lash line. Now I'm dipping back into the shade Bubblegum, and I'm just using that to softly blend out the edges. Putting black eyeliner along your waterline actually makes the eyes appear smaller, so I'm taking a black eyeshadow and a small smudge brush to add some smokiness to the bottom lash line. This gives the illusion of bottom liner while making the eyes look bigger and more open. Now I'm taking the brush that I used with the shade Licorice, and I'm just using the leftover product on that to blend the black out. You really want this area to be seamlessly blended because it really ties the whole eye look together. Now it's finally time to brush off this setting powder. To do that, I'm using this huge powder brush. I really like using a big brush for this because it helps save product. Rather than brushing the powder off my face, I'm buffing it into all the areas that I didn't bake, so pretty much everywhere that I applied contour. This helps set them without affecting the color. I'm going to go in with my Cocoa Contour Palette by Too Faced to just deepen the contour a little bit. I'm just using a fluffy angled brush for this. I'm just applying it as if it's a bronzer, even though it's not, but that's okay. When baking, you tend to lose a little bit of your glow, so this just adds it right back in. So I'm just finishing up, putting this on the rest of my face, and guys, I cannot wait to get into this next part. I really wanted to incorporate hearts into the makeup look, of course, because it's Valentine's Day, so I'm just taking some heart-shaped stickers and I'm going to apply those to my face before I put the blush on. This idea was really last minute, so I had no clue how this was going to come out. There's no specific placement for these, I'm really just trying to make it look symmetrical. Then I'm going to put a couple on the sides of my nose as well to make it look more complete. Now let's add blush. I'm going to be using the Strawberry Soft Shimmer Blush by Revolution. And to apply it, I'm using a nice fluffy brush. I'm just going to go in and pat this all over the areas where I applied the stickers and also anywhere else where I would normally apply blush. I'm being very careful not to disturb the stickers because we don't want to mess with the heart shapes. Now I'm using the shades Cherry Wet and Raspberry from my Jawbreaker palette and just lightly brushing this right on top of the stickers with an eyeshadow brush. This is going to make the hearts more visible when I peel the stickers off, and it's also going to match my eyeshadow. I'm just going over these one by one and blending them out slightly to give them a little bit of a gradient. To pull the stickers off, I'm just going to use a pair of tweezers. Oh my god, this looks even better on camera. That reaction was genuine. I really wasn't expecting these to come out as clean as they did, but I'll tell ya, I'm proud. I'm gonna let you guys enjoy watching me pull the rest of these off, and then we'll do our finishing touches. Honestly, you could stop here, but I'm extra and I need freckles. So I'm just taking some white face paint and a tiny brush, and I'm just putting little tiny freckles all around the hearts. After the tiny freckles, I added a few larger ones just to add my own little personal touch to the look. I also made the last minute decision to trace the hearts out in white. I won't put you through the torture of watching me trace every single heart, so I'll just show you how I did a couple of them. I mean, if you don't go all out, are you really being extra? Come on. Now I'm just going to set the makeup with NYX Dewy Setting Spray. I'm just very lightly misting this all over my face. For highlighter, I'm using the shade Heavenly by Koki Beauty. I'm being very careful not to over highlight the cheekbones because this can make the hearts look less visible. So I'm just adding that very lightly over both cheekbones, and then I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit on the tip and bridge of my nose to make that appear more snatched. Now I'm just using a makeup wipe to clean any crusty dusties off my lips. I'm going to be straight up honest with you guys, this lipstick is from the dollar store, it's by LA Girl and is dual-ended. I really have to give it props because it's very vibrant, it stays on, and it doesn't get all over the place. Now I'll show you guys the other end, that's a gloss. I'm just going to put that right on top. So we have finally finished this Valentine's Day inspired look, and let's take a look at the results. So this is the final look. I really hope you guys like it. All of the products used in this tutorial will be linked in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!